Hello, welcome to a brand new episode of the Yexle podcast series. Joining you is your very own host, Akhil Navluri. So in this podcast session, we will be looking at how the role of sales and business analyst provides a value add to the organization. I'm very much thrilled and honored to have the four of you for this podcast session. So before we actually head on with the podcast session, I would request each one of you to introduce ourselves to our audience.
My name is Sean Kilby. I am the VP of North America. I'm in charge of operations and sales over in this region, and I'm at Tyson's Corner, Virginia.
Hi, I'm Paul Clark. I'm a BA here at Yexle. I'm based in the UK and I reside just outside Liverpool.
Hi all, myself Vaishnavi and I am BA working for Yexle Hyderabad.
And along with them, we have a surprise for you. So welcoming my colleague, my real good friend, Mr. Raviteja Pasumarthi, who happens to be based out of Hyderabad, India. He has joined the Yexle organization as a graduate trainee and has come up the ranks. The main reason of having him as well for the podcast is I wanted to understand the perspective of a developer with respect to that of a business analyst. To kick off with the podcast, so Sean, tell me about it. So how does the discovery phase unravel the client's potential requirements and challenges while they are adapting to the same, to Appian?
So just to give you a quick overview of, I guess, how sales gets kicked off with requirements gathering and analysis. Most customers for Yexle already have the Appian product. There's a few that don't, but we'll stick with those that do. They come to us with either two problems. Either the first one is they just got Appian, maybe they have one application, and they're looking to explore how to further use Appian and make it more valuable to them. And then the second scenario is where they may have had Appian for a while, or they know exactly what Appian is, and they're very clear on where they want to go with it next, and are simply just looking for a partner to help them do that. Right. Now, in the former, where they're just looking to explore, the first thing that we do is we set up what's called a program session. So we'll sit down with the customer and we'll talk to them about all the different business processes they have and those that they're looking to digitize. We'll look at a high level estimate of how long it would take to digitize that particular process. We also look at the value that they would get from that. So how critical is it to their environment? And then we would build what's called a product backlog, essentially. So you guys may think of a product backlog in terms of a project or something much more minute. But at a program level, you would have backlogs as well. And so that way, based on this criticality and something that's highly important and won't take long at all, that should be the first thing that you digitize. And so that's how we handle the program session, and that's how we build on that. And we do that with all of our customers, and we do that continuously throughout the life cycle of our relationship with them.
Right.
After we've done a program session, or as I mentioned, under the scenario that a customer already knows exactly what they want, we will do what's called a discovery session. So this is basically a deep dive into their business process to understand it in detail, so that we can create a schedule and a price, a cost model from it. So for that, we're going to need things like, what is your data? How extensive it is? How advanced is your data? Most data is going to fall under the CRUD mentality, the create, read, update, and delete. So we don't focus too much on process because that's not going to really affect our schedule or our price. We also don't focus too much on security and permissions because, again, Appian's very fast at that and doesn't affect much of the schedule and price. We do, however, want to know who's involved in the process. This is going to help us to understand better from a business perspective what their return on investment is going to look like, what their licensing profile is going to look like, and things like that. Once we have the data, we're gonna move into the more complex areas. Do you have advanced reporting? Do you have integrations? How many systems are we dealing with? Are you on premise or are you already on cloud? These are things that are going to really stretch the schedule and price, and so those are really important to us as well. Once we've gathered all that data, we load them into a scoping framework that Yexle has and is proprietary. It tells us basically, based on a resource profile, how long is it going to take, and this is about how much it's going to cost. Once we have that, I put it into a proposal, send it over to the customer. The customer accepts, sends the contract back to me, and then I hand over all those requirements to the business analyst that's on the team.
Right. So Sean, basic thing that I'm actually curious about is you have given a lot of key insights. So Sean, how long does it take for a team to be formed in an agile methodology? And what is the duration that takes for the same?
Sure. Formation of a team, can take up to minutes. So what we do is we have to understand what the resource profile looks like, right? How much do we need from a TDM? How complicated is it from a technical perspective? That'll tell us what we need in an architect. All those parameters kind of come into play. And then all the resource managers meet every Friday and discuss our needs. And within, like I said, within seconds, we kind of decide who is best to fit those needs based on technical capabilities, expertise, experience, things like that.
That's impressive, Sean. So Sean, since you have just given me the hint of a business analyst, so now I'm going to take it all the way here, all the way to the BAs. So, tell me about this. So, what is the role of a BA in an Appian engagement, and what are the skills required for the BA in the same? Yeah.
We act as a bridge, essentially, between the business, the customer, and the development teams. We will work closely with both, and the main purpose is to make sure that the customer's requirements are fully understood and are properly documented for the developers to pick up.
Right. That's pretty much interesting. So in this case, Vaishnavi, I would be looping you as well, not for the same interpretation which Paul has given in the beforehand. So Vaishnavi, like when I'm looping you, it doesn't mean that I'm going to exclude the likes of Paul here. So I want to just take the interpretation from both your end in this aspect. So just make me understand this, both of you. So you're working in an Appian engagement, right? So I just want to know how robust are the client requirements, and how do you ensure the same are future-proof?
Yeah, to say that they differ from customer to customer. So basically, customers can be a new customer or an old customer who knows Appian, and a new customer instance, they might not know how really Appian works, so they have to get into it, and we will be the one taking the requirements and showing everything to them. Like we use different visualizations for the story mapping and all. The main part, as it is, I have bought the story map. The first part will be kind of story mapping, so we'll show that, and we'll showcase how the things goes if they are new to the Appian, and if they are old customers, yeah, they kind of know how Appian works, so it takes much more easier way for us to explain how things work. What do you say, Paul?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think regardless of how detailed the requirements are that are coming to you as a BA, story map is a great way to start, because for people who don't understand it, as you said, it's visual. It's an image of the products, the tasks, the processes, and it essentially is everything that's on that story map is in scope.
Right.
And that helps you then build out the epics and build out the user stories themselves.
So, Paul, it again arises to a new question from my end. So, since Vaishnavi was talking about the visual, so does the visual lead to the creation of epics, or is it like, how is it exactly?
Yeah, the story map, you will take elements of the story map at the higher level, and they will become the epics. You then write the individual stories. Obviously, the detail is in the stories themselves, and that's essentially how you would convert the story map into user stories or into elements for the developer to pick up.
So, there's a very good proverb in English which says that, a visual speaks 1,000 words. So I think this completely
Correct.
summarizes that. So, yeah. So Vaishnavi, like now I will just go straight to you. So Vaishnavi, just make me understand this. So what is the traceability mechanism that you follow between the requirements of, what is being developed and what is being tested?
So to answer that, as we have already mentioned, the first and most thing, that will be the story map. So the story map, it's not only for the business to explain how things work, but it is also for the developers. You see, nothing should be more than that, and nothing should be less than that. Everything must be covered part of that. So it will be very helpful for developers and testers to work on that. So the story maps will be, as Paul mentioned, it will be break down into epics and then user stories and then acceptance criteria. So user story, every user story is a different part or a different element to develop. And coming to acceptance criteria, it will be a short description what to develop and how to develop. Just giving the developer an idea how to do things. And then after this user story gets ready, we have to take a business sign off as well as the developer, and not only developer, comes to tester also, so the team sign off to say. So business must sign off what is being done is exactly what they expected, or is it fine to represent that way or something. And developers, are they okay with what the BA has written for the user story and all?
Yeah.
Is it can be developed or not? And in the same way, the testing also. So then it will be like a refinement sessions, and then
Yeah.
again reviews, retros. It goes on in those agile methodologies.
Right. So, I mean, as far as you have put it across, Vaishnavi, so you're saying that the acceptance criteria is like a playbook for the QAs and for the
Yeah.
developers. Otherwise, if there is any kind of a discrepancy in that, then I trust me. I mean, in my personal experience, the developer and
Yeah.
the QA just go behind the B and they'll ask like, okay, is this the point like we mention about? So yeah, and that
Yeah.
that is pretty much like it just puts on like a lock off. So and another thing I would just like to know about it, Vaishnavi. So how much time on an approximate way does the business sign off take place for?
So usually, we'll plan it accordingly. The time business are free. Actually, we take it when they are free. So how much time it takes? It depends on the user stories we write. So if each and every user story must be refined, it takes time. So we go and take only the important parts like interfaces to say. I mean UI UX designs to say.
Yeah.
So we'll take that part. Why? Because that is the main body that will be displayed for them to work on. So we
Yep.
take those parts under consideration and we go and take the business sign off. Why? Because the development part, they might not get a deeper understanding about the development, but this will be working fine with them. How
Got
the
it. Got it.
display and all it will be. Yeah.
That's interesting. That's like a big challenge, by the way. But end of the day,
Yes.
I mean, what we just do with a lot of hard work just comes the way, and what we do with hard work just pays off. So
Hmm.
yeah. So Paul and Vaishnavi, like again coming back to you both. So I mean, in this case, we were just talking about the positive scenario. Now let's take a different route altogether. I know that you've been part of different Appian projects. So I mean, I just wanted to understand, like when you are imposed by a lot of challenges and a lot of risks, how do you mitigate them?
They're going to
Yeah.
happen. Change is going to happen.
Yeah.
Requirements will change over time.
Mm.
You do need to have, you need an agreed documented process, including the way of working. That will include a risk register. You need a proper documented, agreed escalation process.
Yeah.
And also a project status report needs to be produced on a regular basis. And that keeps the whole team on point, knowing exactly how the project is performing. Sometimes change can be a positive. It can be a positive as it may lead to a notification to the sales team, for example, because if the customer might be looking to extend the scope of the project,
Yep.
sales may then be able to engage with them and either take it on as a new
Yes.
project or maybe as an additional phase to the current project.
Yes, Vaishnavi. So what's your say on this?
Yeah, I agree with Paul on the same. Why? Because a small changes can be taken into consideration while doing the development, but the major changes that takes time. It has to be well discussed. So we just push it to sales team, and sales team will handle it. Huh.
Sean, since Paul and Vaishnavi are like enthusiastically and emphasizing about the sales team, so Sean, what's your say about the same, and how do you deal with it?
From a sales perspective, we're responsible for customer success. So anything around risk management, anything around PSRs that Paul mentioned is going to be important to us. If we see any activities that are leading in the wrong direction, that's something that we need to critically look at. But also, and Paul kind of mentioned this too, anything that's an opportunity for success is really important to us. If Paul is sitting in a meeting and listening to some problem that a customer is having, and it might not even be anybody we've worked with before. It's important that we bring that back to the sales team so that we can kind of dig deeper.
That's pretty much impressive, and yeah, that's interesting. So now on to you, Ravi. Just help me understand this. So, what is your expectation? Like you are a developer, so what do you expect with that of a business analyst like Vaishnavi and Paul?
Oh, hello, Akhil. Thank you for having me on the podcast. So I would like to greet everyone else as well. So now as for what the developer expects from the BA. So during the requirement gathering stage with stakeholders, the majority of the requirements are stated explicitly. And the customer sometimes leaves with requirements related to that thinking that they will be inherent to what is explicitly stated. So what we expect is for the BA to make sure every requirement to be discussed clearly, so nothing is missed out. That's the first thing. And the second thing I want to highlight is like during the development stage, when testing occurs, developers may not identify some issues because they lack the subject matter expertise on the particular business process. In that case, what we expect is the BA to join with us during the testing phase along with the testing team. So he can point out defects that will otherwise be overlooked. Yeah, these are the 2 points which I want to highlight. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Right, right. That's good, Ravi. I mean, that's completely insightful. So before we reach the final phase of our podcast session, so to summarize the podcast in a nutshell, so we were looking at how the discovery phase unravels the client's potential requirements and what are the roles and skills of a PA in an Appian engagement. And in an Appian engagement, how robust are the client requirements and how do the BAs ensure that they are future proof? And when risks and challenges are imposed upon them, how do they mitigate them? And last but not the least, the perspective of a developer with respect to that of a business analyst. So I must say I had a ball interacting with each one of you today. It was so fun. And I could say that, each and every insightful thing was like a learning for me. I've gathered a lot of things. And in fact, the use cases which you have, I mean, verbally told me, I could, just completely connect. So it just ticks all the boxes for me. And for surely, I'm saying that the people out there belonging to the department of sales and business analysts listening out there, across the world would completely relate to this, and not to mention the people belonging to the IT spectrum. So on that note, this is your host, Akhil Navluri, signing off. We would be back with another brand new episode of the Yexle podcast series. Till then, thank you, take care, and stay tuned.